You're listening to Contesting Wrestling. Hello, everybody. My name, as usual, is Doc Diamondfire. Man who's been in professional wrestling for 15 plus years. Who's counting? I've done a little bit of everything, and currently I'm a commentator, and that's great because I don't have to take any bumps. But I do maintain this podcast, and let me introduce you to my co-host here, Ben. Who are you?
I am Dr. Ben Abelson, professor of philosophy at Mercy College, and I also like to make comments about professional wrestling in various types of venues. And today, we are joined.
We are
What am I talking about? We are joined at the microphone. We are joined by a former student of mine at Mercy College, a former student of philosophy, who is a 3D modeling and texture artist and a great fan of professional wrestling. AJ Lupo, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
The Contesting Wrestling podcast.
Thank you very much, guys. I can't be thankful enough for you guys have me on the show again. It's always fun to come on here and get angry and to contest and to discuss. Yes, as you mentioned, 3D modeling artist, big wrestling enthusiast. If I can find a way to do art full-time and wrestling part-time, I will, but doesn't look like it's going to happen for a bit right now. But nonetheless, I'm very happy to be here.
All right. Yes, you are one of our favorite people to contest with because you have a different perspective on wrestling from us. You're younger by quite a bit than either Doc or I. And I think you consume more of the current product than either of us does. The WWE product, certainly, I think.
For the most part, yes. I've been a little bit like distant from WWE with the exception of Wrestlemania season. Set a very low bar for this show.
Yeah, me too.
Like, a few of the match on here. Like the bar was, I'm very close to the floor. Like that low.
I too was not particularly excited for this WrestleMania, though, as it turned out, I liked pretty much everything on it. We'll get to that. But do you watch weekly at all? Because I think Doc and I both pretty much are exclusively, what do they call them?
Exclusive live events? Maybe I can't get the vocabulary. I know the vocabulary.
Premium live events.
Premium live events.
No longer pay-per-views.
I try to keep up with occasional like live events and occasional like indie companies here and there. I'm typically watching AEW almost every week.
Yeah.
That's
a whole other story.
Pretty much I don't want to say gave up, but like I have slowly but surely cut myself off from NXT due to a lot of hurtful trauma. But
correct me if I'm wrong. You were a big fan of the previous NXT brand, as was I. But it's completely revolved. It's changed. It's essentially a new show. And has the new show not caught you?
Not necessarily. No. They're having a problem that AEW is having right now. There's just too much, and they're trying to build too many new people really too quickly. That being said, I'm just going to name off a few wrestlers. Tony D'Angelo, Braun Breaker, those are like new guys who like I am very fond of. I can see that. Agreed. They're living their gimmicks and they're improving the ring bit by bit. And I'm starting to see what they're trying to do by bringing in like guys like Ziggler and Natalya and Mandy Rose to come back in and like give them a rub, which I get what they're trying.
Mandy Rose is killing it down there from what I've seen.
Oh, no, she is absolutely killing it. Good. And Toxic Attraction, the NXT's version of the Beautiful People.
Yeah.
You can't tell me otherwise, man.
It's working. I mean, the Beautiful People I guess the Beautiful People still exist in some form, or at least they did recently. But really, that was a gimmick that happened like a decade or more ago, and it was very good. But the update, it's time for an update. It's okay to do the same thing a decade later with more modern sensibilities.
So it's interesting we've started the conversation this way. I also pretty much, as far as weekly wrestling goes, am exclusively AEW. I don't always watch all of Dynamite, but I usually watch at least part of Dynamite every week. And it does feel like, the winds have changed. And as far as wrestling fans go, AEW has claimed the wrestling narrative.
A lot of people over the last 10 years came up and their favorite thing was NXT. NXT was initially kind of to be the WWE's version of what was the big time indie leagues. And it was very successful at doing that. It sucked the talent off of the indies. Of course, the indies will always replenish because it replenishes from new wrestlers. Excuse me. Anyway, one of the big problems, though, is that many of the favorites of the NXT set didn't really make it as well as they wanted to on the main roster, and a lot of them just went to AEW, where now they're featured in big arenas and big, time angles. Look at guys like Adam Cole and stuff like that. I mean,
I had a discussion today with somebody who is not particularly a big fan of AEW, and he thinks that the way that Adam Cole is treating right now in AEW is worse than he was in WWE and NXT. And I'm like, are you out of your mind? He's literally been he's been main eventing every single show, like almost every single show. The match he had with Hangman Page, Jesus fucking Christ.
And even
they just did it again this week. That's when we're recording. It was right after Easter, so after the Battle of the Belts and Rampage. And then Adam Cole is also now doing it in big arenas every week with 10,000 people, or like 5,000 people. Not the NXT level of an audience, right. A bigger brand, and that's okay, but you can't equate the two.
And at the same time, older fans like you and I, Doc, who got really into Bryan Danielson and CM Punk and saw them as sort of the vanguard of the wrestling narrative, as they moved over to AEW, the history of wrestling and moved with it for us.
So people made fun of that picture of Tony Khan's face when he's like, "Here's Samoa Joe," but I'm like, that was my face. And it's not even because I think, Samoa Joe's gonna be the best. I mean, he might not be, but I've been a fan of Samoa Joe for almost 20 years now, and the whole time I'm like, man, I wish somebody who knew what the potential of Samoa Joe was in charge of him. And now that's the deal.
And the fact that he bought Ring of Honor, which to us is the most important thing to happen in wrestling. During our fandom, really, also marks AEW out as where the history and future of wrestling is occurring. At the same time, the grandest stage of them all remains WrestleMania.
The transition.
Anybody that tells you that the WWE is nothing but far and away the number one wrestling company in the world doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. Even if the ratings of Dynamite somehow start to rise past the TV ratings of Raw, this will still be true for a lot of reasons. TV ratings are one metric. The WWE is $1 billion international corporation, that distributes worldwide and is a merchandise juggernaut. AEW has a couple of hot TV shows. They're not even that hot yet. If they get hotter, they'll be hot TV shows and they'll sell a lot of t-shirts. Essentially where the WWE was before they blew up in the 90s.
Yeah, so WrestleMania in particular, I think, remains the destination for any wrestling talent. That's where you want to end up eventually. Even if you spend most of your career in AEW or you build your name there or whatever, as we're going to see when we talk about, one Cody Rhodes in a little bit. Having big matches at WrestleMania is what it's all about. Still, I mean, it might not be forever, but at this point it still is, which is why we are continuing our annual tradition of covering the most significant matches from WrestleMania. And this year, the 38th edition of WrestleMania. Holy fuck, are we old? I'm as old as WrestleMania. right? I mean, my 38th birthday will be this year. If I ever forget my age, I'm not going to forget which WrestleMania just happened. So, that'll tell me. And so we selected a bunch of matches. As I said, I didn't think anything was terrible on this show, so there weren't really bad matches to pick.
I even liked the stuff that the critics didn't like. Like, I thought Lashley and Omos made perfect sense. I thought it was a good way to get Lashley a win on the big stage to establish that he could still beat anybody. I think Omos has a lot of potential, but he's clearly not there yet, so there's no reason for him to be murdering everybody. Just have him continue to develop. He lost to the top guy. He can do something else now. Great.
Yeah, I thought both having the Lashley Omos match and the McIntyre Corbin match were important because Lashley and McIntyre are both main event talents who aren't quite household names. I mean, if anyone's a household name, but they're not quite on that like upper name, Orton, Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar tier. But getting wins at WrestleMania is only going to help that.
I agree. I mean, the saddest part is that they could be given the past recent WrestleManias, and I felt like they, especially with this WrestleMania, those two in particular, they weren't dealt a great hand with the matches that they had, but like they had to make the best of it.
Right.
Sure. That's what is what I'm essentially trying to get at.
We're at an interesting point in WrestleMania right now, and I'm interested to know your perspective on this, AJ. But if we want to, we could start with this. The last 7 years have been the story of the ascendancy of Roman Reigns, right? And they wanted to, and Brock Lesnar was the biggest monster, was the biggest mountain to climb after ending Undertaker's WrestleMania streak. And this is the third time they've done Roman versus Brock. And the first two times they didn't put Roman over because they knew it wasn't working. And it wasn't working. And they tried and tried and tried. And now, maybe too late in some ways, but now it's finally working with Roman. Roman is seen by everyone as the dominant champion he should be. And so they finally, in the grandest fashion possible, really crowned Roman Reigns as much as they could possibly crown him.
But in order to do that, it required him to turn heel and then had to reverse the roles of what Brock Lesnar used to be. He used to be this big monster, and now he ever since they took Paul away from him, they allowed him to share more of his personality. He's going in crowds, taking pictures with fans. He's smiling. He's treating everything as a joke, and he'll still kick your ass. But with Roman,
I like this Brock.
I do. Yeah. I hope
it's fun.
Do not keep Brock by himself forever and ever until his heart stops beating.
Refresh of character badly.
Badly is a major understatement.
Mm-hmm. Now, Roman in the last year and a half finally found himself as a character.
I will admit, I am biased about Roman Reigns. I agree from an unbiased opinion. He is doing much better than he did. He's a more fleshed out character. He is getting more of himself out there, and maybe these frustrations of him being hindered for years is coming out and finally being like, I'm the chief now. I'm not going to be hindered anymore. I'm going to be the focal point. And why I'm biased is because I don't want him as the focal point. I'm so sick of the point is like, yeah, you change his character, you change his personality, you're still force feeding him down our throat. They're still getting what they wanted.
Yeah. And that's why I'm saying it may be like too late in a sense, where not too late for Roman. Roman's doing great, but too late for the WWE fans who, and too late for like,
it's called the WWE universe, Ben.
Universe. Okay. But the universe, that whole universe has been sacrificed at the altar of Roman Reigns.
That's really the problem. They didn't, when it was clear that it wasn't working 7 years ago, they didn't shuffle him down the card and get him more experience. They just kept banging their head on the wall until the wall finally broke. And hey, I love what Roman's doing now, too. I see no reason to take the title off him right now, all yada yada, all that good stuff. But how many people fell off because they were just tired of seeing it all the time without it working?
It's funny you mentioned that, because the time that I was really not sick of Roman Reigns was when he came back after his remission. Because, and yes, like, I obviously, like a lot of people, felt bad. It was a really bad timing for that to happen. When he came back, they didn't shove him into the title picture immediately. They fleshed him out a bit. They kept him away from the main event. And he started
Is that
finding
when
big
they
household
reunited
names.
the Shield for a while?
Yes, and that's also when he had the match with Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania, which was a very underrated match, by the way. I will not praise a Roman Reigns match usually, but that match was pretty nice.
Drew McIntyre hasn't been in the habit of having bad matches basically since he came back a couple of years ago. Like, talk about somebody that needed a few years away from the WWE. You know, he came back fully fleshed out, and he deserves everything he got. It's unfortunate most of his top moments were without the crowd, but he's not an old guy. If he continues working at the level he's been working, he'll come around again.
I truly believe that if you give it time and you give it the right booking, Drew McIntyre can be champion and he can get over just as much he was 2 years ago when he won the Royal Rumble.
I'd say even more. I think he has a new dimension to his personality and to his presence in the ring that he didn't have even when he was champion.
That being said, don't turn him heel. Keep him a baby.
No, please. Everybody loves him so much. If you turn him heel, make it a specific plan that you will eventually have it go around again. I liken it to, like, if you're sending a rocket to Neptune, you don't aim it at Neptune. You aim it the other way, so the gravitational force of another planet in the other direction shoots it around itself and, and forward to Neptune. I'm not an astronomer.
Doc Diamondfire. But, I was going to say, is your doctorate in astrophysics?
No, but I have dabbled a little bit in that kind of, I've read a bit about the planets over the years and how physics like that works. It's actually very interesting because it's not like you can just fill a tank of gas and send a rocket to Neptune. You need gravity, but you need to plan it very particularly from go.
From the perspective of the Lupo or the wolf, you don't just go after the meal. You study the terrain. You work your way around the meal. You take advantage of your environment and your surroundings, and then you go for the kill when they least expect it.
Yes, very true. Very, very true.
So I will say this main event of 2 nights of Mania, like the real main event, the one of the second night, undisputed unification championship match between the WWE title and the Universal title. I think this match was worthy of all of that. I think it was really freaking good. I liked it even more the second time I watched it.
No, I love you. Brock, I love you.
I love you. It was all Roman's idea.
It was all Roman. Oh, God. Heyman is one of the best.
And then out of nowhere, he gets the spear through the barricade. Oh, so good. Well, I was going to say. What made this match so awesome was mostly Paul Heyman. He was the star of this match, totally. He was the star of this whole storyline.
Yeah, he's the best.
Kind of had to be, to be honest.
Where, Brock grabs. Well, we'll get to the finish in a little while, but just from the beginning, just the way that Heyman looks at Roman when he makes his entrance is just brilliant. He's doing the most interesting thing with his face of anyone, but at the same time, because he's looking at Roman the whole time, he's accentuating Roman's presence, not taking away from it. He really is the greatest manager or whatever, advocate, whatever he wants to call himself of all time. Easily.
He adds so much to whatever they do, and he knows it, and everyone around him knows it. Everyone loves working with him now. I say now because it's like he's not trying to get one over on you anymore because there's no reason for it. He's just there to enhance, and boy, does he enhance.
I love the mic work at the beginning. Roman takes the mic and just says, "WrestleMania, acknowledge me." And then there's the guy with the sign behind him that says, "Acknowledge D's nuts."
Get inspiration from Eddie Kingston, I see.
Fantastic.
And then Heyman takes the mic and does his big introduction for for Roman, and then Brock takes the mic, and Brock is really such an underrated performer. You know, he doesn't do that much, but he knows exactly what he's doing, and he calls him like self a cowboy country ass kicker, and he's gonna kick your ass, and is just his version of Paul Heyman's introduction, and it's absolutely perfect.
The crowd roared for that Brock Lesnar introduction, like just the matching of the namesake. That was just golden.
And then he immediately takes his gloves off. He's like laughing the entire match, which is fantastic.
Oh, he's final bossing it up for sure.
And then he gets speared.
Yeah.
A bunch of times.
Well, it's
lots of spears.
It's a Brock match. It's mostly finishing moves.
I'm sick of that finisher. Yeah. I really am.
Everybody has a spear.
How many matches ended with spears in this fucking WrestleMania? Lashley won with a spear, Edge won with a spear, Roman won with a spear. I was surprised that Charlotte did a big boot this time.
To be fair, Edge's spear, that the way that spot was with AJ coming off, that was oof.
That was great. And we'll talk about that later. Yes. But still, like, come on, like come up with a new finish.
Yeah, everyone has the same damn finish, and it's not good. Oh, not everyone doesn't have a good spear. A good spear looks like it kills you, but everyone does not have a good spear.
At least do a freaking backflip as you're doing the spear, and then like do the Goldberg taunt.
Yeah,
you know?
do something.
At least do that.
Roman does have a good spear
by
though.
Now.
Yeah. Well, you know, Roman always. I remember when Roman started doing the spear, I was like, oh, that's the best spear since Goldberg.
Braun Breaker has a good one. I hope they don't make it his primary finish.
Braun Breaker, his spear looks like it actually like murders you, and that's why it's insane.
So they hit. Lesnar does all the suplexes, and Roman does all the fucking Superman punches and spears and whatever. Eventually, the ref gets bumped off a spear. Roman hits a low blow. He hits the belt shot. Brock kicks out of the belt shot.
Yep.
And then Roman's going for another spear. And I guess, like, Brock didn't turn around when Roman thought he would. So he's just like, all right, I guess I'll just spear him in the back.
I guess I'll just give him a concussion like Edge and Batista did to each other. You know, and then he goes for another spear, and then Brock puts him in the Kimura afterwards. Yeah. I'm like, that's a decent transition.
Right out of the spear. It was a cool reversal for sure, but apparently it like actually injured Roman.
Roman wrestled for the first time since that, like last night, I think. You know, if you want to blame something on the abrupt finish, like Roman called a bit of an audible, and it was okay because it was the end of 2 5-hour shows.
Yeah.
I said this at the same way that people complained that Brock versus Goldberg was too short. That time Goldberg squashed him. I'm like, you didn't just get done watching like 10 hours of this shit thinking it's too short. Come on. You want another 10 minutes of this? They started at the end already anyway.
So Roman's in the Kimura, and he's trying to get to the ropes, and you see just Paul Heyman's hand come into the camera and just push the ropes just a little bit extra it needed for Roman to grab it and then point at it. You just see the hand. Heyman is that good. He can express a lot with just his fucking hand.
He's the lich of wrestling. He'll just manipulate just the small subtle things that change the outcome and make you so angry and
And then you see Roman talk to Brock as he's picking him up for the F5, and he's probably like, all right, let's go home right now. Yeah. And he got out of the F5 and then hit the spear for the win. And Roman is both champions. And I don't know if he was really, his arm was really that hurt or he was just selling, but I love the holding the one belt up and then struggling to get the other belt up to the same level.
Which he eventually did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jesus.
I mean, Finn Balor did the same thing a few years ago, so like I could imagine that. Like, so it's a possibility of like either he was selling it really well or like he was actually injured, but he was just toughing it out.
Yeah, I see a criticism now going around that like they don't really have anyone built up properly to beat Roman, and I'm like, you don't beat Roman now. He's made it so far to the top that like just leave him champ until somebody is properly ready to take the mantle. There are a lot of people who could do it, but until there's somebody like really built up and ready, just leave that cachet in there. You know, I don't. Yeah.
Let him beat Hogan's.
Yeah,
record.
another year he'll have beat
At
Hogan's
least.
record. If they're planning on doing him versus like The Rock at Los Angeles at WrestleMania,
Yeah.
great. Don't take the belt off him. Have him beat The Rock. And then at WrestleMania 40, he can lose
Absolutely.
it to whoever they want to crown.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I got two names in mind if they play their cards right: Drew McIntyre or Cody.
Mm-hmm.
As of right now, those are the only two people I can see that, because you don't just.
We'll
need
see
somebody...
how Breaker does.
True. That's the thing, though. It's like after Breaker's appearance at the last pay-per-view, like he got mixes of cheers and boos. You don't just need somebody who is just a good wrestler and like is like ready booked. You need somebody who's gonna be behind the guy 100%.
We're talking 2 years from now. So there's
we
time.
don't really know what's going to happen, but prognosticating from this point in time, I'm pretty much on board with the both of you. The easiest ideas would be either McIntyre or Cody, and the more long shot would be, well, let's see how Breaker turns out. Because if Breaker catches fire immediately, just fucking go with him. I could see, I guess we'll talk about this more later, but if it done right, I could see the Cody's journey to the title taking a very long time, but being executed properly. Like, after that whole speech about his dad winning by countout, I fully expect his first title match, him to win by countout. And not get an immediate rematch. Like, make that the journey.
So
anyway.
So let's talk about this next. Let's talk about this next.
Yes.
So we got Seth freaking Rollins, who has somehow made freaking an actual part of his name, which is pretty incredible. But look, I've never liked the guy. I've always thought he was lacking charisma and uninteresting.
We didn't like
and
Tyler
unlikable.
Black in Ring of Honor.
Didn't like Tyler Black. But the Seth Rollins now, who has just leaned into being as obnoxious as possible, it's the right character for him. It's the right spot for him.
And ironically, he was getting cheered like a babyface a couple months ago, despite him being like rolling with this drippy, obnoxious, blinded person.
It's entertaining.
So they did the whole no path to mania angle with him, which is okay, I guess. But I like the interaction between him and Vince, where he's like, "Oh, I thought you were gonna fire me." He's like, "No, wait, why didn't you? You want to go to WrestleMania? Just ask me." Which the funny thing about that is, like, it shows how dumb the no path to mania angle is, right?
But it also shows from a character point of view, like how thick-headed this new version of Rollins is.
Right,
it's like he's like.
But I love him yelling at the T-Rex skull and jumping on the table, and acting like a goon,
surfing on Vince's desk.
Yeah.
But like Rollins should be able, he's a big enough star. He should be able to do what plenty of people do and just be like, I'm issuing an open challenge for WrestleMania. And then like literally anybody could come and, former world champion he won the title at WrestleMania. Come on, man. A continuing problem in the WWE booking that has been standard for a very long time now is that most of the guys in character undervalue themselves. And I don't like that. I much prefer everybody considering themselves to be the best, and then they have to fight over that. Makes more sense to me.
Now, do you think that is them going with the script that they're given, or do you think it's just conditioning of just being put with bad booking? I think for Seth Rollins' case, it's conditioning because of what happened when he was a babyface. And like 2017, 2018, he was the hottest babyface in the company. They put him as the Universal Champion. They put him with Becky. He starts getting booed. They put him with The Fiend. Right. That was a heap of
He should never have been a babyface. He's not a likable babyface.
But he's a likable heel by now.
Yes, right. Because
he was.
I still don't like him.
He was a likable babyface, and then they ruined it.
I do not agree with that.
In any case,
that's what we're here for.
I don't know about conditioning. I do know that that's the angle that they put because they think it causes more like stakes if it's always this underdog thing. You know, everybody has to act the same, so everybody has to act like they're this big underdog. And like the biggest stars never acted like that, whether or not they were big underdogs. You know, John Cena would look at like the Great Khali when he's supposed to be the underdog, even though we know that he wasn't. And he would be like, I'm going to conquer this guy because I'm John Cena and buy all my play sets and toys. And like Shawn Michaels, right, who was the undersized guy who they'd have the announcers call him an underdog. But he would always be like, well, I'm the Heartbreak Kid and I'm the best wrestler in the damn world and you're not going to beat me. And like even like a Hogan, right, who he's never, you know, Hogan was underrated in his like matches where he would sell for 20 minutes and then do his comeback. He would play the underdog in most of his matches, but he would never for a second act like he was the underdog. So why am I supposed to get behind all these guys who don't even think that they're the best? I'm not going to think they're the best if they don't think they're the best. Cody thinks he's the best.
Yeah. So Rollins comes out. He's got this cowboy chorus for his entrance. He's got this ridiculous outfit. This weird meshy looking lingerie sort of thing with the furry blue cape.
Yes.
Whatever's going on there. You know, the crowd is already chanting for Cody as Rollins is waiting in the ring.
Yep.
And then we hear the fucking wrestling has more than one royal family, which is such a cool thing to hear in a WWE show.
I marked out for that entrance, and I'm going to tell you why. Given the recent history of WWE taking away good theme songs from wrestlers, I had this pre-notion in my mind of like, they're going to give him a new theme song. They're going to give him a new theme song. They're not going to. And then what do you know? I hear Kingdom by Downstate play, and I was like, what the hell?
You know, he had that theme before AEW. He had that theme made for himself ever since his indie run. You know, it's the same act that plays like Zack Ryder's old theme. You know, like he knew those guys, and
it's the same. I think it's the same guys who played Mrs. Theme song as well.
I came to play, right?
Yep.
So AJ, we texted when the news first broke that Cody was going to leave AEW.
Yes.
And you know, tell us a little bit about your reaction when you first learned of that.
So when I first learned of it, my reaction was similar to when Jeff Hardy was going to AEW. Worst kept secret in wrestling. Like, okay, I didn't expect him to go to WWE. I thought he was probably going to go back to the Indies or do what EC3 is doing, to start his own wrestling company. I did not think he was going to go back. But what do you know? What do you know? He's back again.
So when he did decide to sign with WWE, how did you feel about that?
I was scared. I was incredibly, incredibly scared. I had it in my mind that he was going to go and he was going to be a mid-carder. I didn't think he was going to go back to Stardust. I did not think that for a minute, but I did think that they were going to underutilize him and maybe give him a title shot here or two, but I didn't think that they were going to have him come out and then cut this promo about him wanting to be the best wrestler and him living up past his father's expectations.
I know a lot of fans felt betrayed or felt that, you know, he was selling out or, you know, going back to an abusive ex or something like that. But, you know, like he left WWE because they didn't book him the way that he wanted them to. And what he did, he went and made himself a much bigger star and was able to, whatever, you know, he has in his contract, he was able to negotiate getting the spot, getting the presentation that he always wanted. And I mean, that makes him the smartest businessman in all of wrestling.
You know, I was saying when his AEW contract expired and it wasn't clear what he was going to do yet, you know, my attitude was he's going to be patient. He doesn't have to sign a contract the next day if he doesn't want to. All I know is that whatever his next contract was going to be, it was going to be for a lot of money. He was immediately the hottest free agent in wrestling. He could have waited for Tony Khan to come along and given him whatever he wanted, or he could have taken a large offer from the WWE, but he was not going to take a middling offer from the WWE. He wasn't going to take an opportunity contract or anything like that. He was going to take a top guy deal, whatever the creative was. And if you believe him, he says he had meetings with like Vince personally. And he said, look, I think the best thing to do, he said to Vince, I think the best thing to do is if we just present me as I've been presented in AEW. If I do my act right now. And Vince's attitude was, yes, that's what we think too. There's nothing broken about your act. We're not going to fix it. That's what we're buying right now is the American Nightmare. And they did it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, to his credit, he knew Vince's mindset. He knew that this is gonna, make money for him and get eyes on WWE. So he played his cards right. I'll give him his credit on that. I was wondering up on the weeks leading up to this is this going to be a big detriment towards AEW views now that a big AEW star is going to WWE?
As far as AEW's, I think Cody, he helped establish AEW. He did what he could. And AEW sort of had grown, they had grown beyond each other in some ways. AEW had sort of grown beyond Cody. They have bigger stars than Cody, or bigger names for old wrestling fans or casual fans to bring them in.
Well, part of the advantage of their roster being so top heavy is that if they lose some top guys, they just got more top guys. For real.
I don't think there was really anything left for Cody to do there except win the title. And I like that AEW stuck by him not ever getting another shot at the title.
Yes.
And so, I think they were both kind of done with each other.
You were saying it started with, wrestling is more than one royal family. I like during his promo on Raw the next night, he started with, so what do you want to talk about? He started his promo on Dynamite with that time. But the whole wrestling as more than one royal family thing, when that was said in AEW, clearly he was talking about the McMahons. But in the context of within the WWE, he's talking directly to Roman Reigns. Wrestling has more than one royal family. You're the head of the table, you're not the head of my table. The head of my table was Dusty Rhodes, and he's gone, man. There were only 3 bad men, John Wayne and he's dead, Dusty Rhodes and he's dead, and Cody. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But first he had to get through Roman's old buddy, Seth freaking Rollins, which he did.
Right.
Yes.
I just want to point out that it was hilarious to me that his awful tattoo got a 3D rendering.
Oh, fucking great. I can't wait to see the WWE merchandise machine get that going.
That render had no roughness map. It had a very little normal map. The least you could have done was put a grunge map of scratches on. I'm spitting out 3D terms right
do
now.
it. Even if I don't understand exactly what you're saying, I know what you mean. Their graphics look like dog shit. It was very polished, Yeah. Not that I could make them, but I can see them. It's their render of Roman Reigns looks like, this 1950s kaiju movie version of Roman Reigns is going to destroy downtown Dallas. Oh no,
oh no, the weird viper. It's going to come down and infect the WWE audience. It has where's the roughness map? It's just base color.
It's true.
What are you doing?
That's excellent. I thought some of Corey Graves' commentary on this match was really interesting, calling Seth Rollins Dusty Rhodes' star pupil. I guess. Okay, fine.
Oh, all right, maybe.
Pointing out when Cody did the Stardust taunt.
Yeah, right at the beginning.
That he was shedding his skin.
I mean, I liked Stardust, but I liked Stardust for what it was. I liked Stardust too. A bottom of the card, funny angle.
Right.
I thought all the
on the other,
I thought all the old gimmick and other wrestler references in this match, while they're usually a part of Rollins and Cody Rhodes' moveset, I thought it was necessary for the story that they were telling, like shedding the skin of Stardust, taking out the old school move books of Goldust, to burying Cody Rhodes with the pedigree of his former boss.
Yep.
And then making the Cody cutter. I'm like, you could make that a reference to the RKO, to be completely honest.
And it's a multi-layered thing because he's also a student and a friend of Diamond Dallas Page, and just all of that together. Like Cody is in a very
all the pedigree stuff,
unique position right now that he built. I'm very impressed long term.
Yeah. Cody coming out and saying Triple H is his favorite wrestler too.
Right.
Added some to the pedigree battles, and then he ended up doing a Tiger Bomb, a double underhook power bomb. Which is just a cool move. I mean, maybe a little Mizawa in there. I don't know.
Remember when he first started doing the Tiger Bomb and everybody thought he was going to go for the pedigree?
Yep, I do.
And then the pop was just like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say one other thing about commentary. Corey was good in this match. I have a really hard time remembering that Jimmy Smith exists, which is better than like Michael Cole, who I wish I could forget about his existence. But Jimmy Smith is just like the most non-entity broadcaster I've ever heard.
As the more I've done commentary in my career, I almost hate to say it, but the more I appreciate what Michael Cole has done. That doesn't mean that
he's a hard-working
That doesn't
guy,
mean that I like it when I hear it as a fan of the product, but I understand what he's doing and I understand why he's very good at it. As Taz once put it, hey, they tell you to go out there and sell Big Macs. You go out there and sell Big Macs. That's what he's doing.
So, in the end, Cody hits the 3 crossroads with the flip-flop and fly in there before the third one.
I already saw people complaining, Seth kicked out of his finish. Like, no, that's he did. You can do them rolling. It's a move. God damn it. That doesn't mean that you have to be like the Young Bucks and do your finish a million friggin' times in the match. But it's it's because he did the crossroads more than once. It's like, that should be the finish. No, did you not get the story they were telling that he wanted to sprinkle Dusty in there and like
some honorable spots I thought were pretty nice. The moonsault into the quick pin. It seemed like he botched it a little bit, just the way he landed perpendicular to Seth.
It was crooked.
It was, but he like picked it back up with the pin. I'm like, okay, that's not too bad. One of my favorite counter though was Seth going for the curb stomp, and then immediately Cody goes under for a roll up.
Yeah,
that was clean.
That was good.
That was excruciatingly clean.
I really liked Cody going for the step-up kick outside off the steps, and Rollins catching him, almost dropping him, but he just basically bombed him on the floor, and then did the buckle bomb into the barricade. That was cool.
As cool as that was, I hate the buckle bomb.
Stop doing the
especially
buckle bomb.
when Rollins does it. You need to have a really thick base to make the buckle bomb look good. Rollins is always too skinny. His legs are too skinny, and that's why he fucked himself up the one time. He was trying to do it to Kane.
He was doing a sunset flip power bomb when they were both on the buckles. He almost killed Sting.
Right, he almost killed Sting.
He ruined Finn Balor's main event run.
And he ruined Finn
Balor's Changed my mind. He ruined it.
No, definitely. And I thought it was funny. They did the suplex over the top rope to the floor spot. Jay Briscoe and Dax Hardwood had done that the previous night on the Ring of Honor show. And when that happened, I was like, oh shit, they never actually do that. Where they go all the way over, one guy lands on his feet, and then they hit the actual suplex on the floor. No, though, but I think the way that Dax and Jay Briscoe did it was they actually went straight from the apron to the floor. Whereas this time it was like over, one guy lands on his feet, and then they hit the suplex. Anyway, so it was a cool match, but, the most important part of it was just the fact that Cody was there.
Yeah. And then it was executed properly. But really, the fact that he showed up is the blasting point.
Now, my favorite match of all WrestleMania this year, it was the match I was looking forward to the most to begin with, and I thought it also delivered the most, was also on Saturday, and it was Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch for the Raw Women's Championship. I think Bianca Belair has had the best match on WrestleMania 2 years in a row now. The story leading in was fantastic, was the best of all the stories for any of the matches. You had Becky beating Bianca in 26 seconds at SummerSlam, which we were all upset about. but I think they paid that off as much as they possibly could.
Yeah, damn it, they brought it all the way to Mania. You know, they had Belair chase. It was a proper chase, and she got her shot, and there you go.
And I like that also in the storyline, they did a lot around, this was understated. They did a lot around Bianca's hair.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, like Becky tried to cut it, and then, or like Bianca gave Becky a horrible lashing with it, and then Becky tried to cut it, but Bianca escaped, and she ended up cutting Becky's hair, and in the match, so in last year's WrestleMania with Sasha Banks, Sasha tried to use Bianca's hair against her, but failed, and Bianca ended up lashing her with the hair, and that led to the finish. This year, Becky had completely neutralized Bianca's hair. If anything, she only used it to her own advantage in the match, and Bianca was unable to use the hair as an offensive weapon at all. And I thought that was a cool story point.
Definitely.
I want to say, though, that I thought personally the build-up leading to this match was my favorite. This whole idea of Becky being the biggest, the best babyface of all time, and now that has sort of like shed onto Bianca.
Yeah.
And now it's sort of...
You're only good because I showed the world how to be great.
Exactly.
That's a good line.
Excellent line.
I was skeptical of Becky as a heel when she came back, but big time Bex turned out to be real good after a couple of months.
Remember the first time they tried to turn her heel in 2018, and they failed miserably?
It did not take.
Well, they tried to turn her on Charlotte.
Right.
And no one liked Charlotte, or I don't like Charlotte.
I think Charlotte is one of the best wrestlers of the last 15 years, but that doesn't mean I think she's likable.
I gotta give credit, guys. Cher looks really good for women in their 70s.
Oh, God. Jesus. Look, Charlotte, the queen remains on her throne, but that's the thing. Down with the fucking monarchy in the first place. There's more than one royal family in professional wrestling.
We're not covering the Flair Rousey match in detail on this episode, but
sucked.
I thought it was fine.
It didn't suck.
I thought
it
it
was fine,
but it was better than I expected, because the way Rousey looked at the Rumble and leading up to it, she looked terrible. I thought it was going to be a total disaster.
Ronda's first run, she looked like she was experiencing her dream. This run, she looks like she's fulfilling her contract.
Yeah, totally. I think they really wasted it. For one thing, the match everyone wanted to see, if anything, based on the past, was Becky and Ronda one-on-one, not Charlotte and Ronda. And it just, I think they really wasted her return here, and I don't know if they're ever going to be able to rehabilitate her character.
Match sucked, game sucked. That's all I got to say about that match. But another thing that I wanted to point out specifically about the Bianca Belair match, there's this whole motif of the constant grabs and the struggles that Becky has given to Bianca with the hair, the neck, the constant disarms. It's like, even though she resents Bianca for taking her spotlight, she's almost trying to grab it out of her back and trying to leech onto her to get that spotlight back. That's
good. And she's trying to, she tried to pin her a number of times right at the beginning, right? She wants to get this over with. She knows how dangerous Bianca is. And, but she knows if she allows her to get her shine on and to get any momentum in the match, that, she's going to lose. And that's what ended up happening.
She came up really, really short like this, in her mind, it wasn't about, at least for the character, it wasn't about putting on a spectacular match. It's I'm going to end this and I'm going to embarrass her.
Right at the beginning, I like the throwback to the SummerSlam match, right?
Yeah.
So this time, Bianca puts her hand out. Becky goes for the shake, or Becky, instead of shaking her hand, just goes right for the cheap shot. Goes for the manhandle. But this time Bianca reverses, goes for the KOD, and then Becky uses her braid to reverse into the manhandle, but only gets a 2 count. So it's a reversal, of what happened at SummerSlam, but also ended up getting to the same place. But then this time
it's a simple spot.
Like, a lot of
it's a
twists
simple spot to get the crowd already like to the next level, because they're half expecting another quick match anyway, or at least they believe it's actually possible.
Right. Before we get any further, though, the entrances.
Yeah.
Fucking Becky looked just incredible. This like sci-fi Blade Runner, Fifth Element kind of Bowie sort of gear with the pointy shoulder pads and the jacket that's connected to her skirt, and like the short red hair and makeup, and just she looks so fucking cool. This is my favorite version of Becky. I feel like she's finally found her like visual style.
You're right.
Because like I never liked like the steampunk thing that she used to do, and like any of the, a lot of the other stuff. Even when she was the man, it was like, okay, like this is cool, but it's also kind of like Austin and
I felt like with the man, when they realized that they were making her a babyface, they had to simplify it and sort of going too crazy with the steampunk stuff that she used to do.
And then Bianca with the funky ass Texas Southern University marching band.
Oh, boy.
The marching band started, and Corey Graves went, "What the hell is this?" It's like, shut up!
Her entrance,
come on, man.
It literally looks like freaking a Buffalo University college campus entrance, which is fitting for her character, because in her backstory, she was just the best at all the school sports and the best at all the school events.
Exactly.
So I thought that was pretty unique.
Yeah. Some really good spots. The Bianca doing like the fireman's carry drop onto the buckle, and then the 450 off the second rope, like, which is even more impressive than the top rope because there's less room to rotate. That was very cool. We got to mention, I guess Becky was going for the Molly go round, but Bianca was too far out, so she just flip kicked her right in the face.
That was brutal.
Busted up her eye.
Ooh.
Yeah, wild.
My personal favorite spot was when Bianca almost got counted out. She immediately darts back in. Becky goes for a pin. Bianca kicks out, and then Becky's just bawling her eyes.
Yeah, she thought she had it.
What the fuck do I have to do?
Yeah.
Like she's the high schooler from Buffalo University. She just failed her finals, and she's like, "What do I have to do?
What do I have to do to beat her?"
She goes back to the man. She goes back to the manhandle. Bianca escapes with a corner backflip, and then right into the KOD. And Bianca is now the third person ever to win world titles at consecutive WrestleMania.
Interesting.
After Stone Cold and The Undertaker.
Very interesting.
Real interesting. Interesting fact, I see.
Stone Cold did it at 14 and 15, WrestleMania 14 and 15. Undertaker, I think it was 26 and 27.
Yeah, that late.
Yes. 26.
So, yeah, wow. So I really like this. I mean, it just it told the best story of any of the matches, I thought, this year at WrestleMania. What do you think, AJ? As we're going through these,
I thought it was pretty unique. I thought the build-up was the most important part to the story of this match. I thought that without a good build-up, like, it wouldn't have been as exciting as it.
But what was your favorite match of Mania?
My favorite match of this year's Mania.
Yeah.
My top two are Edge and Cody. No, whoa, I'm blanking out. Cody and Rollins and Edge and AJ.
All right, I thought you were going to say Edge and AJ.
Yes.
Based on what we were texting about earlier. So why don't we jump back to night 2, to Sunday, and talk about this match between Edge and AJ Styles.
Edge and AJ served a very specific purpose for people that wanted the long, like, wrestlers wrestling match. The big stars wrestling for no other reason than to see who could win because they want to beat each other, which is, if every match on your card is like that, it gets very boring. But if you have one really good one, it shines through. And this match shone through. It was very good.
Now,
So Edge made the challenge. He wanted as he said, Bulldog AJ. He meant the Pitbull AJ, based on Vince McMahon's classic assessment of AJ as a Pitbull. But Edge turns heel on AJ and transforms into this new mountain of omnipotence, super villain, Thanos, Darkseid style character.
have either of you guys listened to The Other Side by Alter Bridge in full?
I don't.
Because
his new theme?
Not
yes,
carefully.
it's kick ass, and it fits him perfectly well. The song is basically a very one-track point of view of, oh, you think you're gonna go to heaven when you die? Here's the thing, buddy. Everybody goes to hell. Everybody suffers. So there's no point in trying, which fits this character of Edge perfectly well, because it seemed like weeks leading up into WrestleMania, he was trying to draw out the old AJ Styles, the AJ Styles that we haven't really seen in a while, because he was tag teaming with Omos. And
so that kind of brings up my problem with this match. I liked it. it a lot.
Yeah, that sucks, right?
We'll get to it, but no, I liked it, but I was critical, and none of them. I thought the match served the purpose that it was supposed to serve. But so Edge comes out in this fucking awesome entrance, right? Incredible. It's this new transformed Edge. He comes off this throne. He's got this awesome half cape. He's got this purple gear that looks really cool, and he's got a bunch of he's got a new way of handling himself in the ring. AJ he's still just AJ. And I thought that was part of the point of the match, right? Is that Edge has made this transformation. What is AJ? What has AJ really done since he's been in the WWE? How has he really evolved? And I thought part of the story of the match was AJ doing his normal stuff and Edge being a step ahead of him.
But I also feel like that's what makes AJ AJ. He doesn't have to have an awesome cape or 1,000 pyrotechnics in himself, because his true talent comes in the ring. That's where he shines the best, is putting other people over and showing that in very hectic situations, he can make the best of it and come back.
Even when his pyro bloodies him before.
Oh no, it wasn't his pyro.
Oh no,
that was featured on.
It was
featured on Botchamania, like a zoom in. As he was coming in, he hits his head on the big set WrestleMania sign. He needed to step half a step to the right before he got to the actual entranceway. It almost knocked him over, but he ran right face first into it, and he was already bleeding before he came out. But yeah,
that's way more hilarious.
But AJ, I agree with you about AJ Styles. He's the steak. You put the sizzle around him, but he'll deliver his stuff in the ring. Really, ever since he came to the WWE 5 years ago, the whole thing was, well, here's this guy that they never had. Let's have him have big time matches with all the top guys. Here's a top guy he hasn't even touched before because it's Edge. He only came back himself a couple years ago.
Yep.
I was still just a little bit bored by his performance during a lot of this match. Some of it I really liked. Some of it I felt dragged because, Edge I can't look away from. His face is always telling me something. His mannerisms are always telling me something. AJ, it's just he's gonna do the next move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In reference to his current theme song, he has said to AJ constantly that you are a pit bull, but pit bulls only know how to fight. Your only option is to fight. In other words, you think that that you have a good option. There's only one option for you, and that's the terrible option.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty. Now getting into the match, Edge is definitely the focal point in the beginning. His style of wrestling, completely different from how we're used to with Edge. He is, the way he's grappling onto AJ, giving the cross faces, digging his fingers in him. He looks, as you mentioned, like a Marvel supervillain. He's taking his time and torturing AJ. And I'm this is fucking awesome.
I love the AJ gets the calf crusher at some point, and Edge reverses it to an armbar and then into the label lock.
Oh, boy.
Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna keep this move
Right.
around, you know. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry, that's the Gargano escape.
What? That's not the Gargano
The
escape.
Gargano escape was
It's not anything like the
the
Gargano.
Border City stretch by
Gargano is
Alex Shelley.
the Border
right.
City stretch. Unlike the label lock, where you have the guy's arm trapped in an actual jiu-jitsu hold, an omoplata, the Gargano escape, you have the guy's arm over your neck where he can just put you into a headlock.
Yes.
I've always hated the Gargano escape, even when it was the Border
I always
City
thought
stretch.
it looked cool. I was always willing to accept that hold in the pantheon of pro wrestling, even if on the jiu-jitsu mat it would get you laughed off the jiu-jitsu mat. That's not true. Most of the jiu-jitsu practitioners I know are very serious and would not laugh at you. They would just correct your form.
Wait, real quick. Who did the Border City
Alex
stretch?
Shelley.
Who was that?
Alex Shelley.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. A lot of stuff was just stolen from Alex Shelley. He's a real unsung influence in professional wrestling. I'm a big fan.
Definitely. A couple crazy bumps Edge took. The suplex in the corner where it looked like he landed on his surgically repaired neck.
He did. He did. He definitely did. It was
The superplex from the bottom rope to the apron by
boy.
AJ onto
the something,
Edge was
something of
nasty
the ring.
as hell.
It was very unsafe because he was on one leg while doing that, while he was giving the suplex. I'm like, are you out of your mind?
Come on, man.
Are you trying to kill both of yourselves?
And then Edge, oh yeah.
Which, if that's what you're trying to do, then go for it. But, yeah.
And then Edge took the damn Styles clash.
Yeah, that's been done very infrequently in the WWE.
And he's so tall, he was like touching the mat when he was setting up for it.
My concern was that despite the fact that Edge's neck is better, he wasn't going to pull his neck all the way back, because that's the thing about the Styles clashes.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys have taken that move. When I trained a little bit, I took that move.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I never have I ever taken something like this. I mean, I've pancaked out for bumps. I don't think anybody's ever actually given me the Styles Clash. You know, when I was training,
I gave the Styles Clash to a girlfriend of mine.
You
once.
did. You were about it. You really could have hurt her, Ben. But you didn't.
Did you tell her to keep her neck back?
Yeah, I told her not to tuck. Do the opposite.
When I was training, you know, I've trained in several places now, and when I was training back at Gleason's under Johnny Rods, nobody was trying moves like that because it was very old school. When I was training at Chikara, that was just not in the curriculum, and if you wanted to do something like that, it was either going to be your finish, but more likely they were just going to tell you, no, don't do that, do something else that's less dangerous. And now it's like, people don't even do it anymore because so many people have gotten hurt doing it because,
Yoshitatsu got his neck
because
broke.
you tuck your chin and because that's an instinct, but that's how you get really hurt. And I'm not saying it's a bad move that done by trained professionals shouldn't be done. It's actually a great move, but it's not as obvious that everybody's taking it as you might think.
I think there's someone was telling me there's someone who does it, but at the last second still turns it into a power bomb.
Slightly less dangerous, unless the guy is
putting
his head back like they're supposed to, in which case you're landing right on Oh, God. Why would you do that?
At the last second, you got to tuck.
Just throw it, at the Royal Rumble, right? Johnny Knoxville threw one really, really good forearm at AJ Styles and got everyone's attention. And that's why he's the accomplished, boring, technical wrestler, Knoxville is.
Right. Okay. Let's get to that in a second. So the match ends. AJ, after Edge kicks out of the Styles Clash, Edge wants to do the phenomenal forearm, but Damian Priest is just there. He's not even looking at AJ. He's looking at Edge. There. And AJ's like, oh shit, he's there. And that just 1 second delay means that when he does go for the forearm, Edge catches him with the beautiful spear that AJ mentioned earlier, out of nowhere, as it were. And Edge is the winner. And this new stable with Edge and Damian Priest seems to be formed. Now, again, I don't watch weekly WWE, but I hear that they've already ruined it. At least that's what the
I don't know if they
says.
already ruined it. They're just still starting it, really.
I haven't seen the latest episode of Raw, so I can't confirm that.
Apparently, Damian Priest like showed up at the end of AJ Styles match and didn't do anything. He just like showed up spookily.
Oh, the horror.
And everyone hates it. Yeah.
Oh,
we'll
the horror. They need a third person, or they need more people. They can't just have this be a tag team.
They'll probably get it.
But yeah, this was my second favorite match of WrestleMania. Yeah, it was a fine match. They did a lot of cool shit. AJ just doesn't do it for me that much. I want to see his character evolve in some way, but I don't know. Maybe as you say, AJ, the point is that he is just AJ Styles.
Yep, yes, indeed. He is indeed the boy.
All right, so since you mentioned Johnny Knoxville, Doc, let's go back to. Oh wait, no, this was already Sunday. Earlier on Sunday. We get the Anything Goes match between Johnny Knoxville and Sami Zayn. Knoxville had eliminated Zayn from some battle royal on SmackDown or something to enter the Royal Rumble. He performed very well in the Royal Rumble, was eliminated by Zayn. He humiliates Zayn so Zayn is doing this whole jackass segment where he's like shocking himself with stuff. And then Knoxville comes out and reveals that he actually had the safety on or whatever, and then actually shocks him. And that angers Zayn.
And the build up to this, the funniest part was when Johnny Knoxville leaks Sami Zayn's phone number out into the real world, and I actually did call Sami Zayn.
Good shit.
You did?
I managed to get him on for a few seconds, and I wasn't being a dick. I just said, "Hey there, buddy," and then he was like, "Go away," and then he hangs up on me. And then I sent him a text message.
That's fantastic.
Would you like me to read the text message?
Yes, please.
That I sent.
Please.
Okay. So to Sammy, hey Sammy, I know you have millions of people blowing up your phone right now. All I want to say is that I'm sorry, and I hope you have better days coming to you. Also, there's no conspiracy against you. The company just doesn't like you. It's okay though. That's just capitalism in general. Welcome to America, home of the Whopper.
Wow.
Sent on March 29th, 8:14 a.m. Seen March 29th, 8:50 a.m.
All right.
That's awesome.
He saw it. That's good.
They kept it going. He kept showing like just proof that he was getting all of it. I'm sure he has another phone, but still, the thing that made this work is that they really and truly went all the way with it. If they half-assed it, it would have been stupid beginning to end. But no, the Jackass crew are no strangers to doing stupid physical stuff. And Sami Zayn is such a great performer that he could just go with it. Whatever you're doing, he'll just adapt. And yeah, that's why it worked. It wouldn't have worked any other way.
So, Knoxville comes out looking like Captain Underpants. 2 cheeseburgers away from 175
Captain
pounds.
Underpants' grandfather, maybe.
Right.
Captain Underpants is like a small child.
He was quite the silver fox.
Right.
Yeah.
Knoxville was having a great time. Like, he knew what he was doing. I'm Johnny Knoxville. Welcome to WrestleMania,
And they had what has been described on Twitter quite aptly as a PG deathmatch.
They hit all the same marks that you would find at like a GCW Nick Gage deathmatch, just without all the blood.
And not only that, but it was very much like the kind of typical WWE style hardcore match, but just so much more creative and fun. The table full of mouse traps, the fucking groin kicking machine.
And the personal wee man just coming out and beating the shit out of
Oh man, I popped hard. Wee man coming out and then body slamming Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
And all the actual wrestling moves in this match were all, 95% Sami Zayn.
Yep.
Yes.
He knows how to do
I
that.
already saw the
He
clip.
knows how to make someone else look like they can
I
wrestle.
saw the clip of Wee Man slamming Sami Zayn with the commentary from Hogan slamming Andre superimposed on top of it. So that was funny.
That's good. That's good. The spot where Sammy's on the top rope and Knoxville has remote control and like turns on the fireworks that distract Sammy and make him nut himself.
The giant hand.
The Mae Young and Mark Henry's child.
Mark Henry tweeted that out. Like, I only produce generational talent. Like, yeah.
AJ, do you get that?
Is that now? I get that from the angle that they did the Mae Young and Sexual Talk with Mark Henry thing.
She gave birth to a hand.
I was at the Garden that night,
and now
I bought into it for like a fraction of a second. I'm like, wait, did they actually have a kid?
No. Mae Young announced her pregnancy. Within like 2 months, they decided to pay it off, and they did one of the really bad backstage skits they did where she gave birth and they were like, it's a hand, and then they never mentioned it again. That's not quite true. They mentioned it on like Raw 15 years later where they had some guy in a hand suit like, I'm here, and so there you have it.
So what do y'all think of Johnny Knoxville doing the tornado DDT?
Great. I mean, another move that's all, Sammy picks him up off the top rope, turns around, and then jumps onto his own head. Like another move that like is, again, all in the person taking it.
Anybody can do it.
Anybody, pretty much anybody.
It takes practice, but
Knoxville, he had the body control and the timing, and like he was able to take a back.
Well, Knoxville is a stunt man, he can do this. They've really upped the quality of the celebrity involvement over the last few years of people who can actually do stuff like this. As opposed to when WCW would have Jay Leno coming in. Like, say what you will about like Logan Paul, he like looked like he knew what he was doing in there, and he knew how to appeal to the crowd to get over what needed to get over, and so on.
And by the way, so Knoxville, and it really I think put 75% of the roster to shame with the way he was, handled himself around the ring in terms of his showmanship and appealing to the crowd and all that kind of stuff. Like that's what most of the guys on the roster are lacking. They can do all sorts of flips. Their timing is good. Their conditioning is good.
Very good athletes.
All this stuff. They're very good athletes, but they don't know how to grab people's attention. And that's something Johnny Knoxville knows how to do very well. And that's something Logan Paul knew how to do. That's something, as we'll see, Pat McAfee, as we'll talk about in a moment, was fantastic at. And even, so, all right, well, let's get through this. So, bowling ball to the nuts, tongs to the nuts. Sammy goes through the table filled with mouse traps, most of which had gone off as he was pulling it out from the under the ring, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Then Knoxville brings out the giant mouse trap.
Oh boy! And then he puts him underneath, and then sets it off, trapping this man as if he was in a Saw movie.
It didn't go off at first. Whatever the automatic release was didn't work. But Knoxville was good enough to know how to release it manually. If you're gonna have a stunt like that, you better know it inside and out to make it work if something goes wrong. And he did. And and that's it. Sammy lost. Johnny Knoxville, undefeated at WrestleMania. It was fun as hell.
It really was. I hope they're paying Sami Zayn a lot because he knows how to do that.
Yeah.
He's, the rare heel who can do as many jobs as you want and never get any less over. And that's very valuable. And he knows it too. And he's smart enough to, like, people complain like, oh, they're holding you back. It's like, no, they're not. They are absolutely not. Just because he's not the world champion doesn't mean they're holding him back. He's
had a ton of intercontinental titles. He lost. Knoxville cost him that last one to Ricochet.
He's a featured player.
And here I am.
Ricochet, who was not on WrestleMania.
Oh my! I think that's what upset me most about WrestleMania. You Finn Balor new U.S. champion. You make Ricochet new champion, and here I am as a young fan thinking, are they feeding me a bone, or are they actually going to give these guys a chance? And they don't, because they don't feature the Intercontinental US title on the fucking show.
Not at all.
I'm like, okay, you're not going to treat the title as jokes anymore. Those titles are jokes now. That they have been for a very long time right now. And
well, maybe they'll build them up a little bit now that, you know, Roman has both world titles and he's not going to lose them anytime soon, probably. So, you know, they're going to have to put a little more emphasis on the other titles.
I mean, you say that, but like when Brock was world champion and just wasn't showing up on the show, they did not successfully put value on the Intercontinental Championship. They just slowly got less popular over the course of several years.
I think the last two good the two good rivalries for the IC title were Miz and Ziggler and Miz and Rollins.
Yep.
Like those are the last two that I can pull off the top of my head.
The Miz has tried so hard over his career to put value on the Intercontinental Championship. He has tried so hard.
All right, we're in the home stretch. We got a couple more things to talk about. The two-part story that played out over both nights of WrestleMania, beginning with the main event of night one, which we didn't know, right? Like, so KO, Kevin Owens, called out Stone Cold Steve Austin to be on the KO show. The original rumor was that they were thinking Austin was going to have a match, but they did not bill it as a match. And Austin apparently wasn't sure whether he was going to actually have a match until fairly close to the show, when his training was going pretty well. And he was like, all right, you know, I think I can do it.
I'm glad he did, because he could.
So Owens comes out and just shits all over Texas.
I couldn't believe it. He pulled his pants down in the middle of the ring and just started shitting.
Yeah.
Just.
Wait.
Oh, that was a different movie. Oh, never mind. Okay, yeah, he just was talking down on Texas, you know, getting that heat.
For a really long time, right? Like, he cuts like a whole promo, and just as he's like, well, I got a whole lot more to say, like, just when it was just a little bit too long, like, the crowd is starting to get a little antsy, perfect time.
Glass shatters.
The music hits, glass shatters, and Austin is there. He comes out, poses for a while, and then goes back for his ATV.
He drives that ATV to the ring real fast.
Real fast. Goes and poses, smashes the KO signs that are in the ring. The strap of his knee brace comes off for a second, and he's got to fix it. KO covers for him pretty well while that's happening. And then they have him sit down. I thought it was kind of funny. Like, Austin's like, all right, well, I'm going to sit down for your talk show.
Yeah.
And they go back and forth for a while. I loved Owen's line, if I had grown up in Texas, I would have moved to Mexico. It's right there.
Yeah.
See, that'll get the Texans riled up. Not saying that Mexico is superior, but implying that everybody clearly knows that Mexico is superior, of course. And you know what? Owens is Canadian after all.
Canada's superior.
Yeah.
I love
French Canadians, I might add.
Right. Austin's like, in a few seconds, all these people are going to start calling you an asshole. And of course, the crowd.
And of course. Yeah.
The whole thing about this, I enjoyed all of this tremendously. But, and it was perfect for this WrestleMania in Texas, in Dallas, right? Austin finally having his last match where he had his first match.
It was a good line, a throwback, WCCW, trained by, I want to say Brian Adams, but not Chris Adams in Dallas, and started wrestling on that circuit, which is a hard circuit to run. I recently saw an interview with Gary Hart where he's like, wasn't that bad? You just fly from town to town because it was short. I'm like, yeah, Gary, you were one of the bookers. You'd fly. These guys 5 to a car wouldn't be flying.
So
this was interesting to say the least, if I'm going to be honest. I don't hate either of these guys. I love them dearly. I'm still upset that they killed the Kevin Owens babyface run. But with that being said, this match didn't need to happen. I thought they could have just ended the show with the Kevin Owens show. Get your ass Stone Cold stunned. Get out of here.
I disagree entirely. I wanted to see Austin wrestle. I thought it would be really cool if he did. And this is coming from, like, you know, this whole thing was, well, all right, I'll talk about that later. But I wanted to see what Austin could do in the ring.
Everybody I know that actually went to WrestleMania was all, the magic of it was, oh my God, he's actually going to have a match. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. So
Now,
based on that I
said,
have to go with it. Yeah. What's up, Pitcher?
But I did think it was a little funny that the fact that he's beating on Kevin Owens, like he's an old angry grandpa. He's the suplex spot I thought was pretty nice. The beating him senselessly on the table,
the concrete floor.
Yep. And the slow ass Irish rips. The funniest part I thought was him just chugging the beer and then spitting it in his face. I didn't think he did that to anybody back in the day. I know he would like pour beer in someone's mouth, but I didn't think he'd spit it in someone's
Usually
face.
He wouldn't drink until after the match.
Right. I was going to say the fact that he's drinking the entire match, like he needed it to get him through, was pretty hilarious. This whole thing, like, you know, he must have gone through like 3 cases of beer between the actual match and the aftermath. And it was a big advertisement for his beer, you know, and it was this spectacle of excess, right? Like, I'm just going to pour fucking beers out. Like, I don't care. It was a perfect encapsulation of like Texas Americana culture, and which, you know, I don't know if we really need a celebration of that right now in 2022.
Look. We're New Yorkers here. Let's not judge how the Texans do their Texas shit in Texas. We can argue about our differences nationwide. We can argue about things Texas does that's much more serious than this. But when it comes to Stone Cold pouring 3 cases of beer on his face, I got no problems.
No, I agree entirely. The fact, given that they were in Texas for Mania, this was definitely the way to go. Whether we needed this Mania in this day and age is another question. You know what I mean? Given your, you know, crumbling American infrastructure.
Well, the stadiums are all new and very nice.
Well, sure, yeah, right. Anyway, that's. You know, so I had mixed feelings for that reason, but I thought this was a lot of fun. Seeing Austin take the bump on the floor was crazy. Just, you know, like, I don't know. There's part of me, there's an old fan in me who likes to see how far these guys can go. You know, who likes to see someone who can, you know, still pull a match out. You know, well into, like, I always loved watching Ric Flair wrestle in his 60s. You know, just because he could.
I was hesitant. I was only hesitant about that given what had recently happened with Goldberg and Undertaker at that Saudi show. Like, that was hard to watch. But
I trust Austin more than I trust
Yeah,
Goldberg.
Me too.
Like, I don't think he would have taken the match if he didn't know what he was capable of doing, and I didn't think he was going to go beyond what he knew himself capable of doing. I mean, most of his shine is the mud hole stomps, you know, and just the fact that he can do that, you know. Owen says at the beginning, your knees are shot, your back is shot, your neck is shot, otherwise you're fine. But he showed, you know, his knees are all right, you know.
Now, to Owen's credit, I do agree that, like, yes, he, despite the fact that he can do some really crazy shit, sometimes he can be a safe wrestler. Like, even back in the day with the package pile drivers, Kevin Steen, that move looked fucked, but you felt safe. You felt safe.
This was also Owens redeeming himself at WrestleMania. You know, the last time he had a really big WrestleMania match, it was the one against Jericho, where Vince McMahon said it was his least favorite WrestleMania match of all time. And when you watch that match, Owens doesn't, you know, you had this great violent, hateful rivalry that came out of, they were Jericho and Owens were friends, and then Owen viciously turns on Jericho, and they went out there and they had an indie spot fest.
Yeah.
Owens didn't wrestle like a heel. He did his freaking swanton.
They were like, we're going to go steal the show. And it's like, no, do the part of the show you're supposed to do. Because if anything, that this WrestleMania showed, a well-rounded event, is much better than 9 matches in a row trying to steal the show.
Well,
right.
I think...
And Owens played the asshole heel there to get beat up.
Yeah.
He was supposed to.
Well, with that match specifically with Jericho, I think that the reason why they had that indie spot show was out of rebellion. Reason being because originally that match was supposed to be for the Universal Championship.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. You don't rebel. You're an actor.
Right.
You play the role you were given.
I like to say...
and if they were rebelling, then Vince had every reason to not trust Owens anymore.
When people want to really go against the script in wrestling, like it's always, it's fine if you don't like the part that you're given. There are ways there are recourses, but if you're going to go out on stage and play the part, you have to play the part. And I like to think, trying to change it is akin to if you're a Shakespearean actor and you're given the role of Romeo and Juliet. You don't go up to the director and say, yeah, man, it's a good play, but like, it's kind of a bummer at the end. Can we like survive? I think it'd be better if me and Juliet survive and then maybe we make out for a few minutes in front of the crowd and walk off. No, you can't fucking survive. You die. It's the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet, you idiot. And if you don't want to do that, get the fuck out. Somebody else will play Romeo,
Yeah. And if you're cast as the freaking janitor, you fucking sweep that floor as damn well as you can, right? You don't go up and fucking punch Hamlet in the face.
You don't pretend you're Romeo and start soliloquy.
Romeo.
If you have a line, say your line. Get a better role next time.
So, in the end, Austin kicks out of Owen's stunner, and then hits his own the chair shot backfires. Right. They do the old bounce off the top rope into his face. Austin hits the stunner for 3 and then drinks beer for like another 10 minutes. He stuns Owens again.
Drinks another beer.
Then Byron Saxton comes out. He gets a beer and a stunner. And then at some point, Austin goes out and throws a beer apparently at some fan. Just like hits him in the chest with a beer. And we're like, what the fuck? And then it turned out it was Austin's brother who then comes out and has a beer with Austin and doesn't get stunnered.
Yeah.
But yeah, they get their big beer party at the end, and Austin gets his big moment. I thought this was very enjoyable and was a good way to end night 1. I'm worried though, and we'll talk about this a little bit more with what happened in night 2, but like there aren't a lot of these aces to pull out of WWE's sleeve anymore.
If we're only talking about ways to pop WrestleMania, because I think the primary thing that this was to fill the stadiums in Texas.
Right.
Next year, and I don't think it's this big mystery, next year the idea, and it's always, you don't know if it's going to happen until they announce it, but I think the idea is to get The Rock. And I think the idea is to get The Rock versus Roman. They alluded to it on Young Rock last week. I didn't watch the show. I saw the clip. And it was young Dwayne is watching wrestling with his family, and much younger Roman is there, and he says, like, acknowledge me or something, and then, like, The Rock's voiceover comes on, oh, by the way, that's Cousin Joe. You might know him as Roman Reigns. And little kid Joe is like, come on, Dewey, fight me. And Dewey's like, no, Joe, a match of that magnitude has to happen at WrestleMania. Like, that is not an accident. That is not an accident. And that will pop it. The year after that will be WrestleMania 40. We'll see what they got by then.
Hopefully, I think that they're going to try to go with that plan anyways. it's a big part. It's a big draw, and WWE. It's not about making new stars. It's about making big draws nowadays.
To do the impressive thing, to make it look like you're a bigger brand. Because if you look like you're a bigger brand, you can make a bigger deal with a bigger media company for more billions, and that's the truth.
At the same time, those multiple of 10 WrestleManias have traditionally been where it has all begun again.
They usually crown the big technician.
Right. Brett got it at 10. He who will not be named. No, fuck it. Benoit got it at 20. Daniel Bryan got it at 30. But do they have that? Oh, they have Drew Gulak. Drew Gulak for WWE champion at WrestleMania 40.
They could do Sami Zayn. Shit.
No high flying moves ever.
No, sensible mat wrestling.
All right, so last thing. Sunday, we get Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory. And this match, the original rumor was that McAfee was going to wrestle Vince.
Well,
no.
You're 100, please.
So Vince is on the Pat McAfee show, right? And he tells him he's going to get a match. And it turns out it is going to be with the eminently punchable Austin Theory.
Oh, God.
Who's going to be a huge star. He's got the Vince rub already. And he just, he's fucking douchey face.
I like what Austin Theory is doing. I like his talent. I like his weird sense of humor. That being said, if he's the one to beat Roman,
no,
he's
man.
not that guy.
He's not.
And we'll see in 2 years.
Boo. Boo this man.
He reminds me, how I feel about him is how I felt about Randy Orton when he first showed up.
And it turns out Orton wasn't the guy. No. Cena and Batista were the guys. They tried, but they tried with Orton first before they tried with Cena and Batista.
Right.
They thought Orton was the guy, and as it turns out, Orton wasn't the guy.
It's because they had him as this Orton wrestling name prodigy who was gonna kill all the legends and kill all the big stars to prove that he is the best in the world, which kind of worked. And I do like some aspects of the Legend Killer, but I thought the Viper, the Apex Predator, works as a much better later. Yes, for him.
Eventually, yeah. The real mistake was turning him face after he won the title.
That was a bad move. People could tell he was an asshole at the time.
You're right.
That being said, yes,
apparently
agreed.
He really was. Yeah,
he's a much better heel than a babyface. That being said, what he's doing right now with Riddle as a babyface, I think is hilarious. They're the best act on Raw.
He's very over. When I went to that house show, right, whenever Riddle would appeal to the crowd, nobody gave a shit. But Orton was the biggest star on the show, other than Roman or Brock Lesnar. Every move he made, the crowd was with it. Riddle was there to take the pin, man. Which he did. And then Orton doled out some RKOs to everyone, and everyone was happy.
Which is weird, because a few years ago back in NXT, Riddle was hot. He was over. So I'm thinking, what happened?
He moved to the main roster.
Was it the name change?
No.
Was it the name change?
Being over on NXT has not guaranteed being over like that on Raw and SmackDown the entire time. Yeah. It was a different flavor. That's why people liked it so much. But then you try and fit that different flavor into the Big Mac, The Big Mac sells very well. The Thai red curry Big Mac would not sell very well. Even though Thai red curry is fucking delicious, you ain't gonna make the Thai red curry Big Mac sell.
I'm sorry. In that sense, yes, but the thing with Riddle quickly is that he got besides his name, his character basically remained the same from NXT to the main roster. So I still wonder what happened.
I was going to say earlier in talking about Mania still being the big show, and I kind of like that we have the wrestling for everyone. We've got the mainstream thing, which is WWE, and then we've got the wrestling for wrestling fans, which is AEW. And I like having both.
I love that there's a choice.
And I kind of and I like that I don't have to watch WWE every week. I like that I can follow along by watching the pay-per-views, and that's enough. I don't have enough space in my life for hours and hours of wrestling.
And even if I do, by the way, I'm going to watch different stuff. Like I watched several hours of WWE this week. Me and Katie are watching. We finished watching 1996 and we started watching 1997 earlier today. We started the 97 Rumble. And we're going to watch the Attitude Era. Several years ago, we watched through Nitro, which, Ben, you have to watch through Nitro.
What eventually? Now I'm enjoying watching Mid-South Wrestling
rules, by the way.
When I have time.
The couple of times I've come to your house and watched Mid-South.
Occasional
that
Puro.
shit is great.
Yeah. Oh man, the early '80s Mid-South. I gotta catch up on New Japan. I still haven't watched Night 2 of Wrestle Kingdom.
I'm so behind on New Japan. Apparently, the Bullet Club is no more, or they're breaking up.
They kicked out Tamatonga and Tangaloa. I think it still exists, but it's another iteration.
All right, so Pat McAfee comes out to Seven Nation Army with the Cowboys cheerleaders.
Real professional, the best cheerleading squad in the world. Yeah.
And then he punts the football into the crowd.
Because he's a punter.
Good shit.
And he does some good stuff. He has a good spinning elbow. He does an okay Rana, though he doesn't cross his legs. And
true luchador.
He does the whole. He backflips off the top rope while Theory's up there, and then he does the Shelton Benjamin jump all the way to the top and hits a superplex.
Yeah.
Then he reverses Theory's A-Town Down. That's what they called his finisher. But he reverses it to a schoolboy and gets the quick upset win. Good. Excellent wrestling performance for a celebrity.
It is.
For a guy who's been training for 5 years, probably just in his off time from his very busy schedule,
Yeah, it's insane how he's only been in like 3 matches technically, and 2 of those matches are like 5-star matches, like absolutely like incredible. Of course,
I thought his match with Adam Cole was Adam Cole's best match.
I will say it's one of his best matches. Yes,
it's
because he had to do less. He had to wrestle a simple match with the new guy. He couldn't just go overboard like he does in every one of his matches. But we already.
I really like how much they had built the McAfee character before this as a guy who always wanted to be a pro wrestler, but he became a football player. Because clearly, if you're going to have a chance to be in the NFL, you will. It pays so much better. And then he got his podcast, which was so good. He was doing that. And then he started training, but then he fell into the commentary gig, so he did that. But the whole time, what he wants to do really is wrestle. On the one hand, I think that's great for the character. On the other hand, it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about them devaluing their wrestlers. Like, why are you portraying all these other things as being more desirable to the point where you can't refuse than being a WWE superstar? But that's more of kind of a macro problem with the WWE, not with this match, which I thought was very
the other problem is that the stars of WrestleMania this year were largely the celebrities. The celebrities and
Stone
the
Cold Steve Austin,
heroes from yesterday. Yeah. And that's a real problem, they're actual wrestlers who wrestle night in and night out aren't.
I don't have a problem with them featuring celebrities at WrestleMania. They've done that with great success, but you're right.
But
it's
not entirely WWE's fault. Like, the roster should be ashamed of themselves that guys like Knoxville and McAfee are just so much better at grabbing the attention of the crowd. Like, again, you can do as many wrestling moves and you can be totally fluid and totally athletic and do all this stuff. But if you're not grabbing people's attention, I don't care. If you're given a 3-minute squash match, make people remember you as the guy who got squashed.
Well,
who was what was his name?
But the other argument to have there is you could be a good attention grabber. You could have a good character that people get like. If you get booked like shit, no one's gonna like you. This is what happened to Finn Balor.
But that's what I'm saying is it's not about getting booked like shit. If you, in the time you have, no matter what you're doing, you can get yourself
I'm going to mix the both of those a bit. I think a lot of the guys in the WWE would get way more over if they had more 3-minute squash matches to showcase their shit. I watch Dark and Dark Elevation a lot of the time. And people will sometimes disregard them, but like a bottom episode of Dark will get 250,000 views. If one star is on Dark, Paul White was on Dark like 2 weeks ago, and it got almost 600,000 views. It has the viewership of Rampage. If a big current guy is on Dark, it'll get like 1 million views. So don't discount Dark. But if you watch Dark, it reminds me of WWF Superstars from the 90s. Where, the matches are kind of one-sided, and you know who's going to win. But then all of the stars become winners. You learn their moves, you learn their finishes, you see that their finishes are effective, and everybody gets to build themselves. The WWE doesn't have that. They have not utilized like shows like Main Event well in decades. Decades. But they need stuff like that. They have so much time on Raw, but they're afraid to do that stuff on Raw because it might, I'm not sure what.
Well, they have it with they have it with the new NXT, which is what they've tried to establish. But the problem is you got too many people and you got too many focal points.
Right.
You could cut out a little bit of the fat. If guys like, I don't know, Grayson, whatchamacallit, if he got cut tomorrow, I wouldn't care because there's nothing special about him.
But, take a guy like Ricochet. They gave him the Intercontinental title. Who cares that Ricochet has the Intercontinental title? Like, what did he, he comes out and he does his amazing moves, but he does nothing that would make that would make him distinguishable from any other.
And then it doesn't help.
Like, you can find 100 guys on the indies to do the same shit.
It doesn't help that he wins the Intercontinental title and then he drops 3 falls in a week on television. I don't remember Razor Ramon losing a bunch of matches when he was the Intercontinental Champion, and he got way over,
But he still can't cut a promo.
They need to bring back. He
still doesn't do anything.
They really do.
Attention grabbing. Yeah, I don't know. I think these guys, they're just not the television talents that we want them to be, no matter how good wrestlers they are.
Basically, without taking too much away from that, I think that I think it does go both hand in hand. Now that you mention it, it's like there's some aspects of the booking that has to be better, but at the same time, I feel like that there are some new guys that should pick up the pace a little bit.
So McAfee eventually goes over Theory, but that is not the end of his night.
No.
And the real interesting thing is what happens next.
Oh, boy.
He challenges Vince McMahon. And I loved how on commentary, they put it over like, what is he doing? Like, no, he should just apologize. Right. He's in serious trouble now.
Yeah.
Vince, oh, man. Vince, first he teases taking his jacket off and then puts it back on. Then he's like, no, I'm actually taking it off.
Yeah. What you mentioned about the commentators about being like, what the heck is this guy doing right now? I think they're trying to sell it as if are they selling it as if Pat McAfee's going to get his ass kicked? Or are they selling it as, oh no, we're going to see Vince McMahon wrestle. Please don't watch this.
They were selling it as Pat McAfee's going to get his ass kicked. They were selling Vince as a dominating force, even if not physically. They knew and as it turned out in the match, right? The ref isn't going to disqualify Vince for anything that Austin Theory does. One way or another, Vince is going to fuck you up. You don't challenge the boss. And this actually speaks to the problem that you were mentioning earlier, Doc, that and I think this is largely by design in the WWE, especially ever since 2004 when Brock left them. They don't want anybody to be bigger than the company. Vince, no one challenges Vince anymore, right? No one except Austin, right? Who was Vince's nemesis fucking 20 years ago.
They almost had
25
somebody.
years ago.
They almost had somebody about 2.5 years ago who could have been bigger than the company and could have been the biggest star in wrestling, but they ruined it. We all know who I'm talking about. And
CM
he's
Punk?
You're talking about Finn
not
Balor?
letting me in. I'm talking about Bray Wyatt.
Bray Wyatt's an interesting case.
Bray
I can't.
Wyatt. Yeah.
Bray Wyatt
Yeah.
is not taking any bullshit deals. Bray Wyatt will be back when Bray Wyatt decides he's valued, and the WWE will come calling before long too because he's valuable. We'll see. We'll see.
So Vince takes off his suit and looks insane. Like he's just like the most old man jacked I've ever seen. Where he's jacked, but it's all weird and melty.
Have you seen Kratos from the new God of War game? That's what he reminded me of. Just old man bod,
sounds great.
Strength. He had like a video recently on YouTube where he's working with a trainer and he squats 1,000 pounds and like I'm just like, okay, I can squat 600 and I can do that and I can do that 20 times, like, and
Jesus,
and he works like an aging Abdullah the Butcher kind of match where like Theory runs into his arm a bunch of times.
Yeah, or McAfee.
He's running into this arm.
McAfee runs into it. Theory jumps him from behind.
He's doing the Vince McMahon strut. He's looking down at him disappointed. He does the he
does football in the groin.
He totally does football
he does
in the
groin.
punt. Yeah.
I'm like, yo, how do you've had to come underneath for that? Because like that looked painful as holy hell.
Anyway.
Yeah, Bianca and Becky told a hell of a story, but football in the groin had football in the groin.
Then eventually Vince fucking wins. McAfee puts him over.
Of course Vince wins.
Of course Vince wins.
And then I love how Theory's music plays and Vince reacts to it because he's expecting Austin's music. He's expecting Steve Austin.
I mean, if you knew what was happening, if you've watched the WWE for a long time, you knew it was about to happen anyway. This whole thing, like, clearly was a setup specifically for Austin to stunner Vince because that's their greatest hit of all time. It is. That's what the people wanted to see, was Austin to stunner Vince. And that's why when he finally did it and it looked so bad, people laughed about it, but nobody like really gave a shit. They were like, yay!
We got
Vince outdid his friend Donald Trump.
We got
in taking the worst stunner of all time.
I was about to say, like, we got the most oversold Stone Cold Stunner, the worst Stone Cold Stunner, and the most painfully average Stone Cold Stunner in the same fucking segment.
Wait, so the worst, the oversold one was Theory?
Yes.
Where he took the big giant bump into the air?
I'm like, yes. I thought it was funny as hell. I'm like, oh boy.
I always liked The Rock, he would do the big jumping bump and then roll all the way back to his feet and then stagger into a second one, which then he would just do the big pop up.
No, Vince just completely lost his balance, bounced off the rope. Austin had to right him, and then when Austin went for the stunner, Vince couldn't drop to his knees. He just fell over. But I don't know if you saw on Raw, someone showed this to me. They showed like a clip of it, and they edited it perfectly. So it looked like a perfectly good stunner.
Perfectly. So
I did not see
the
that.
structure of this was so good because the crowd already got their like heavy Austin satisfaction the night before, seeing him come out and have his match and do all of that. So when his music hit here, it was all just fun. It was all up. Here we go. Steve Austin's gonna do his thing.
Here we go again.
And he gave Vince a beer and stunnered him. McAfee got up.
Vince liked the beer.
Yeah.
Vince put over the beer first. He's like, oh.
McAfee got up, and I'm sitting there like, don't take the beer, dude. It's like in a horror movie. Don't climb the stairs. Run, Don't take the beer. No, don't drink the beer. Up, you got stunnered. What did you think was going to happen? McAfee on the ground, still pouring beer in his mouth, is just god tier.
No,
that's good.
Stone Cold should have a business where he just sells his own brand of beer. But if you want a beer for free, you have to take a Stone Cold Stunner. I think he should do that.
McAfee had such an incredible arc for this WrestleMania, right? He debuts, has his big match at WrestleMania he's always dreamed of, wins, then gets the shit kicked out of him by a 76-year-old man, Vince McMahon. Oh my God. And then gets stunnered, but has a beer with, and then gets stunnered by Stone Cold Steve Austin. He had the 3 greatest career moments you could really hope for in the span of 20 minutes. Fantastic.
Just great. Good stuff. So yeah, I really enjoyed WrestleMania. I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would. I was dreading WrestleMania, and then I watched both nights, and I was like, that was great. Good job, WWE.
As I stated before, I had set that bar excruciatingly low. Even if I knew in the back of my mind that Cody was coming back, I was like, that's probably going to be the only good match on the show, and everything else is going to be painfully average. And I was wrong, and I'm happy that I'm wrong, because again, I don't hate WWE. I as a wrestling fan, I like some parts of it, but as a fan, I have to critique just the mediocre and the bad parts of it. And that's why I've been conditioned for long to be like, okay, we're going to get a show where it's just going to be really disappointing. And we didn't. We actually got some pretty exciting storytelling matches. We got some grit. We got some women beating the shit out of each other, hair pulling, some drama. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And beer.
Lots and lots of
and beer. So
Broken
much
Skull
beer.
American Lager. Which I'm keeping an eye out for.
It's good.
Yeah,
I've had
the IPA, which
was
good.
Yeah.
I'll try the.
Oh no, that's right.
This is
IPA.
the second one coming out and around. It should be easier to distribute the second one. The first one was a hit. There's a beer store near me.
Well,
I'll keep an eye out.
Hey, Austin, if you want to throw us a bone for.
We will plug it all day long. Yeah.
If you want to just give us a case of it or something, we will totally
your people
plug
contact us. I'll send you an address.
Yeah.
I gave up drinking over a year ago, but I'll try just one.
You'll take a
for the
sip.
sake of Stone Cold.
Just
one sip.
All right. Well, AJ, thank you so much for being on the show.
Do you have anything
again.
you want to plug? Are you a pluggable kind of guy? It's okay if you don't.
You have an
don't.
Instagram.
Not at the moment.
I do.
That. I do. Yes, I do. At the moment, go follow me at AJT_9898. That is where I post all my artwork. You can find me on ArtStation, Alfred Diocini on ArtStation, and that is essentially it.
If you need anything 3D modeled or textured, textured, find this man.
Yeah, our last guest was like, "Do you have anything to plug?" He's like, "No." And I'm like, I follow you on.
It's like, stay away from me.
I follow you on Twitter. Your account is locked, so I'm not going to give out the handle. Great guy.
I even tagged him when I posted about the episode on Facebook, and he didn't
he doesn't want to
share it.
He's a very old school wrestling fan. I love talking about him with wrestling. He enjoyed doing the show, but he's not a media guy.
And also, as I stated, if I could find a way to make wrestling part-time and still be a 3D modeling artist, then Lupo will be coming to the indies.
You're a young guy. Give it some time. Go for it. Only thing that if you want to do it, just do it. That's all I can say. Sleep is for the dead.
While we're plugging things, we have a Patreon. Patreon.com/contesting wrestling for $5 a month. You get access to our now over 100 premium episodes with new ones coming out all the time.
Yeah.
So please support the podcast and check out some of the stuff we have there. We've been watching the first year of Monday Night Raw. We've been watching Lucha Underground. We've been going through a bunch of shows from the early 2000s that we went to.
Yeah, it's a lot of good stuff.
All sorts of
good stuff. And whenever we have the time to edit something and throw it up there, we'll throw it up there. But there are hours and hours and hours of entertainment to find on our Patreon. So we appreciate the people that are sticking with us there. And we appreciate everybody listening to this on our main feed, for sure. Thanks for sticking with us. We still love making contesting wrestling. We just make it whenever we can. All right, so I believe that's all. I think that once the second time in a few weeks is going to be the longest episode of Contesting Wrestling, and that's fine.
Yeah.
We've kind of broken our like time restraints lately and allowed ourselves to ramble a bit more. I mean, whatever.
Now we just got to beat the WrestleMania record. The
8-hour
8 hour
contesting.
No, I don't need any of that.
Well, for AJ Lupo and Ben freaking Abelson, I'm Doc Diamondfire. This has been Contesting Wrestling. We love you. Peace.
Peace.
Have a good one, everybody.